Greetings, one and all, and today we are going to discuss about pharynx. Pharynx is a structure which is present as a cross station or an intervention or intersection between the three pathways. First, it acts as an intervention between the digestive tract, then respiratory tract, and then it also connects our air to digestive and respiratory tract. So basically, pharynx is, in simple words, a cross pathway where the where air and food are passed towards their respective tubes. For instance, it is connected with the nasal part, the internal nostrils, which transports air towards the trachea, towards the larynx part. On the other hand side, the um, oral cavity, buccal cavity is connected to the esophagus, the digestive tract, through the pathway of pharynx. So now let us discuss about the structure of pharynx. Pharynx is basically divided into three parts: nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. The part where the internal nostrils of the nose are opened into the backside of the mouth, the part where the internal nostrils are open on backside of the mouth, and this part where the internal nostrils open on the backside of mouth is known as nasopharynx. And that nasopharynx is lined with uh, columnar, ciliated columnar, pseudostratified epithelium. Apart from which, this is a part where where the air enters the nose, and from the nose it goes into the internal nostrils, and from internal nostrils it passes through the nasopharynx and then goes inside the laryngopharynx. After which there is the oropharynx. Oropharynx is a part, as the name suggests, oro means the oral cavity. So oropharynx is a part where the food enters from the oral cavity to the pharynx, or we can also say this is a part which opens from the oral cavity's gullet part, which starts from the gullet and opens into pharynx, is known as the oropharynx. Part which opens from the gullet and part which starts from the gullet and is opens into the pharynx is known as oropharynx. Apart from which, oropharynx can also be defined as a part where the food moves from the buccal cavity into the pharynx, and from the pharynx into the esophagus. And that is lined with non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. After which there is laryngopharynx, which is the part where the pharynx opens into the glottis. Covering of the opening of trachea is larynx, and the opening of larynx is glottis. So part where the pharynx opens into the glottis is known as the laryngopharynx, and that part is lined with non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium as well. After which, when it comes to other parts, this is basically the types of pharynx based upon its opening. On the other hand side, pharynx is basically having its function to move the air and food inside their respective tubes. For instance, if air is coming from the nasopharynx, and then nasopharynx will transfer the air into the laryngopharynx rather than oropharynx. On the other side, if food is coming from the buccal cavity, then it will be going through the oropharynx, and from the oropharynx it will be going into the gullet. So that is how it goes, and that is a major function, that it allows the swelling of food, swallowing of food, as well as the transfer of air. So this is basically a pathway where there is swallowing of food and transfer of air. And apart from this, there is there are the muscles of pharynx, which allows in the process of deglutition or the swallowing. Pharynx is having its muscles known as pharyngeal constrictors. Uh, these are known as pharyngeal constrictors, and these are divided into two types. First includes the internal pharyngeal constrictors which are circular. On the other side, there is external pharyngeal constrictors, external longitudinal or elongated pharyngeal constrictors. First, let us discuss internal circular constrictors. These are the constrictors which include three types of muscles: inferior, middle, posterior, middle, and superior. These are the constrictors which are present in the circular pharyngeal constrictors, and in longitudinal pharyngeal constrictors there are stylopharyngeal constrictors, stylopharyngeal constrictors, salpingopharyngeal constrictors, salpingopharyngeal constrictors, palatopharyngeal constrictors, as well as these are the constrictors. And when it comes to their control, so basically inferior, middle, and superior constrictors, these all are combined together. These three types of constrictors, inferior, middle, and superior constrictors, overlap over each other. They overlap, due to which they form a single layer which is stratified, known as the musculature, apart from which we are having the control. So both types of pharyngeal constrictors, internal and longitudinal constrictors, are controlled by the vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, but the stylopharyngeal constrictor is the only constrictor which is controlled by the glossopharyngeal nerve, which is cranial nerve 9. Apart from which, over the constrictors we are also having the ring-like structure around the pharynx. We have a ring-like structure around the pharynx. The ring is a bit embedded, so let me just rectify it. So here there is ring-like structure. I'm able to draw it over the screen. So here is a ring-like structure, a ring which is known as a tonsillar ring around the pharynx. Tonsillar ring around the pharynx. This tonsillar ring is present at the backward side of the pharynx, or at the backward side of throat as well. Backward side of the pharynx, backward side of the throat as well. At the backward side of the pharynx or backward side of throat. Backward side of pharynx, backward side of throat. This is known as tonsillar ring, or we also call it as Valdiers ring. And apart from this, uh, we are having different parts of it. Inside within the Valdier ring, there are eustachian tubes. And eustachian tubes, as we know, that eustachian tubes are also open into the pharynx, which means it connects air, the air to the digestive and respiratory tract as well. Now, this eustachian tube opens into which part of pharynx? It opens into the nasopharynx. Apart from which, there are two eustachian tubes because we are having two ears, which arise from the middle ear, of course. And here we are having tonsils. First, we are having six tonsils here. We are having six tonsils, apart from which four are paired, which means there are two pairs of four tonsils and two are unpaired. Now first let us discuss about the paired ones. Now paired ones are found here. The paired ones which are found over the eustachian tube, paired ones which are found over the eustachian tube are known as the tubal pharyngeal. These are known as the tubal tonsils. Where we were actually, let me just clear it. This part here, this is this is a tonsil which is present over the eustachian tube. A tonsil which is present over the eustachian tube in paired form is known as the tubal tonsil. This is the same for this one because both of these are in paired form. Apart from which, a tonsil which is present on the downward side of eustachian tube inside the Valdius ring, of course. So as it is present on the downward side of the eustachian tube, downward side of the eustachian tube. Now this is present on the downward side of the eustachian tube, and as it is present in the paired form in the downward side of the eustachian tube, it is known as the palatine tonsil. And there are two other uh, tonsils which are present in unpaired form. One is over this side one is over the upper side and other one is over the downward side. So the upper one is actually the posterior tonsil, which is known as the pharyngeal tonsil, and the downward word is the anterior tonsil, which opens into the oral cavity, which is known as the lingual tonsil. As it is present near the lingual cavity, lingual oral cavity, it is known as lingual tonsils. While this one is known as the pharyngeal tonsils because it is present near to the pharynx. Tubal tonsils because it is present near the eustachian tube. Palatine tonsils because it is uh, present over the palatine, which includes the hard palate as well as soft palate. Tubal because of the eustachian tube. Palatine because of the presence of palate, because of presence of near to the palate. And what is their function actually? Their function is that they work as lymphatic checkpoints. These work in the lymphatic system and as lymphatic checkpoints, due to which they produce lymphocytes. They produce lymphocytes, and as they produce lymphocytes, these are responsible for what? These are responsible for the defense mechanism of our body. Which means if any type of germ or any type of pathogen is trying to enter our body, either through the digestive tract, respiratory tract, or even the uh, through the eustachian tube, that would be killed by the lymphocytes produced by the tonsils. That these can be in the oral cavity as well as these can be in the pharynx. So these pathogens are killed in the oral cavity as well as in the pharynx, as well as in the eustachian tube, as well as in the apart from this the larynx and both respiratory tracts. Apart from which we are having another structure within this diagram in which there is first and foremost the foramen cecum. All of these parts are discussed previously, so we are just going to discuss foramen cecum as an important structure. Yeah, so where we were, this is foramen cecum. We can further check out the anatomy of this part. Foramen cecum, which is present over this side, and this foramen cecum is basically the ending part of posterior part of the tongue, posterior ending part of the tongue, and that is kind of depression on the posterior ending part of the tongue, which is causing to ending posterior part of the tongue, which gives rise to the essential structure of thyroid gland, because thyroid gland during the embryonic stage, it is basically the remnant of the cranial part of the embryonic duct from which the thyroid gland is developed. So it is a part of the cranial part of the embryonic duct from where the thyroid gland is developed near the foramen cecum. So it is the remnant of the cranial part of the remnant of it is the remnant of cranial part of embryonic duct from where the thyroid gland is developed near the foramen cecum. But as the embryo is developed further, the thoracic the thyroid gland further situates itself within the neck rather than near the foramen cecum on the posterior side of tongue. So during embryonic stage, at the cranial part of the embryonic duct from where the thyroid gland is developed causes to form a depression known as the foramen cecum. That is what we call as a foramen cecum. Basically, it is the depression, or it is the part where the cranial part of the embryonic duct from where the thyroid gland is developed is then able to be uh, developing the thyroid gland, but after the embryonic stage, the thyroid gland is again situated inside the neck. So hopefully you enjoyed the class, and we meet again in another